The Black Lake Camp. Anna, Lucas, Pedro, and Carla were excited. It was their first time camping without their parents, and Black Lake seemed like the perfect spot. Secluded, surrounded by a dense forest, and with a breathtaking view. Legend had it that the lake got its name because of its dark water, which seemed to absorb the sunlight. But they didn't care about spooky stories. After all, they were just teenagers trying to have fun. When they arrived, they set up their tents near the shore. The day was warm and the lake looked inviting. Pedro, always a joke of the group, dove in first. The water's freezing. He shouted, laughing. The others quickly followed. They swam, played, and as the sun began to set, they decided to light a campfire. While roasting marshmallows, Carla told a story she'd heard in town. They say that years ago, a girl drowned here. Her body was never found. Lucas scoffed. Classic. Every forest has a made-up horror story. Anna, however, stayed quiet. She didn't like stories like that. When it got dark, something strange happened. Carla's flashlight suddenly went out. "It's probably the battery," she said, trying not to sound scared. But soon after, the campfire began to die down, as if someone were blowing out the flames. Pedro grabbed a stick to stir it, but he noticed footprints in the sand around the fire. Wet footprints leading to the lake. "Did you guys go back to the water?" he asked. Everyone denied it. Anna looked at the lake. The surface was completely still, not a single ripple. But she swore she saw something glowing in the depths, like two eyes reflecting the moonlight. In the tent, Anna couldn't sleep. She heard slow footsteps outside, as if someone were dragging their feet through sand. She woke Lucas. "There's someone out there." Lucas peeked through the tent zipper. The campfire was out, and the moon only lit part of the beach. Nothing moved. "It's just the wind," he said, turning over. But Anna knew it wasn't the wind. Hours later, a scream woke her. It was Carla panicking. "Pedro's gone." They rushed out of the tents and found only Pedro's trail. Footprints dragged through the sand as if he'd been pulled toward the lake. At the end of the trail, there was a dark stain. Blood. They decided to look for help, but there was no cell signal. As they prepared to head to the car, Carla noticed something stuck on a low branch. A silver necklace, corroded by time, with a photo of a smiling girl. On the back, it was engraved. Maria, 12 years old, disappeared in 1987. Anna remembered the story Carla had told. The drowned girl. "He's here," Lucas said, pointing to the lake. Pedro was standing knee-deep in the water, his back to them. His body looked different, thinner, with pale skin clinging to his bones. "Pedro," Carla called. He turned around. His eyes were black, no whites, and his mouth was stretched into a grin too wide for his face. "You shouldn't have come," said a voice that wasn't his. The three of them ran, but Pedro, or whatever he was, chased them. His movements were strange, as if his joints didn't work properly. When he caught up to Lucas, he grabbed his arm. "He's freezing," Lucas screamed, trying to break free. Anna grabbed a piece of wood and hit the creature. It let out a grunt and backed away, but Lucas was already hurt. Blue finger marks wrapped around his arm. They ran into the forest, but soon realized they were lost. The trees seemed to move, blocking their path. And in the darkness, they heard laughter, a child's laughter. They found an abandoned cabin and hid inside. On the walls were yellowed newspaper clippings. All of them talked about the same case. Maria, the girl who drowned in Black Lake. But one article caught Anna's attention. Maria's body was never found. Locals swore they've seen her walking along the shore at night, with black eyes and corpse-like skin. Carla sobbed. She never left the lake. She wants company. Lucas, weakened by the marks on his arm, whispered, "We need to get out of here before sunrise." They left the cabin, but Maria was waiting for them. She was no longer in Pedro's body. Now she was just a small, pale figure in a soaked dress, her hair covering her face. Behind her, the lake bubbled, as if boiling. "Stay with me." Her voice echoed, sweet and terrifying. Anna and Carla tried to run, but Lucas collapsed, weak. Maria approached him, touching his face with icy hands. "You'll play with me forever," she said, smiling. Lucas screamed as he was dragged into the lake. His skin turned pale, his eyes darkened, and he disappeared into the black water. Anna and Carla ran to the car, but the keys were with Pedro. As they rummaged through their bags, they heard footsteps. It was Lucas, but it wasn't him anymore. His eyes were black, and he smiled that wrong smile. "You're not leaving," he said in Maria's voice. Anna grabbed a lighter and threw hand sanitizer from her bag at him. The fire spread, and the creature recoiled, howling. The two jumped into the car and sped down the dirt road, never looking back. Epilogue: the lake never forgets. The next day, the police found a destroyed tent and strange marks in sand. No bodies were found. Anna and Carla never spoke about what happened. But sometimes, Anna still hears a child's laughter when she passes near any lake. And on full moon nights, she closes all the windows, afraid of seeing a pale, wet figure tapping on the glass. Whispers in the woods. The fire crackled, casting flickering shadows on the trees surrounding Camp Hollow. The 6 campers, Jake, Emily, Sam, Lisa, Tom, and Rachel, sat in a circle, their sleeping bags scattered around the fire. It was supposed to be a fun weekend of hiking, swimming, and ghost stories. But as the night grew darker, an unsettling feeling crept into the air. "Did you guys hear that?" Emily asked, hugging her knees to her chest. "Probably just an animal," Jake replied, tossing another log onto the fire. "We're in the middle of the woods, after all." Lisa frowned. It sounded closer. A distant rustling echoed from the trees. The group fell silent, listening. The sound came again, slow, deliberate footsteps crunching against the dry leaves. "Hello?" Sam called out, his voice uncertain. No answer. Rachel shivered. "Maybe we should turn in for the night." Reluctantly, the group agreed. They zipped up their tents, the campfire casting its last feeble glow before darkness swallowed the clearing. The forest was eerily silent now, except for the occasional hoot of an owl. Then, at exactly 3 a.m., a scream shattered the silence. Tom bolted upright, his heart pounding. What the hell was that? The scream had come from outside, near the trees. Jake grabbed his flashlight and unzipped the tent, stepping cautiously into the cold night air. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing nothing but towering pines and thick mist rolling in from a lake. "Where's Lisa?" Rachel whispered, her voice shaking. The group scrambled to check each tent. Lisa was gone. "She wouldn't just wander off," Emily said, panic rising in her voice. A low, guttural sound echoed through the trees. It wasn't an animal. It wasn't human. "We need to find her," Jake said, gripping his flashlight tighter. They moved together, staying close as they followed the faint trail of disturbed leaves leading into the forest. The deeper they went, the colder it became. Their breath formed misty clouds in the air. Then they saw it. Lisa stood in the clearing, her back to them. Her long hair was tangled, her arms hanging limply by her sides. "Lisa?" Rachel called, stepping forward. Lisa turned slowly. Her face was wrong, her eyes too wide, her smile too stretched, her head tilted at an unnatural angle. "You shouldn't have come," she whispered, but her voice sounded hollow, as if it echoed from somewhere far away. Tom grabbed Rachel's arm. "That's not Lisa." Lisa, or whatever she had become, took a step forward. Her movements were jerky, unnatural, like a puppet with broken strings. Her smile never wavered. Behind her, more figures emerged from the trees, twisted versions of people, their faces familiar yet grotesque, their mouths stretched into eerie grins. "Run!" Jake yelled. The group turned and sprinted back toward camp. The figures followed, their movements impossibly fast. The campers reached their tents, fumbling to grab their bags, their keys, anything that could get them out of there. But the figures stopped at the edge of the clearing, watching, waiting. Then, just as suddenly as they had appeared, they vanished into the trees. The campers didn't waste another second. They jumped into their car, peeling out of the campsite, their hearts hammering in their chests. As they sped down the winding road, Rachel turned back for one last look. Lisa stood at the tree line, watching them go, her wide, impossible smile still frozen in place. The next morning, Park rangers searched the entire area. There was no sign of Lisa, no footprints, no evidence she had ever been there at all. But when Jake checked his phone later that day, he found a single new photo in his gallery. A picture of their group around the fire, taken from the trees. Whispers in the forest. The dense forest surrounding Black Hollow Camp stretched for miles, untouched and ancient. The towering trees swayed gently under the evening breeze, their rustling leaves whispering secrets to the darkening sky. 12 campers sat around a crackling fire, their faces flickering with orange and gold light. It was the last night of their week-long trip, and the mood was both celebratory and heavy with the knowledge that tomorrow they would return to civilization. One last scary story before bed, Mark suggested, his grin mischievous. He was the loudest in the group, always looking for a thrill. Yeah, but let's make it a good one, Lisa agreed, tucking her leg beneath her. Something actually scary. Jenna, the quiet one, adjusted her glasses. How about the legend of the Hollow Man? Her voice was soft, but the way she said it made everyone turn toward her. Kevin scoffed. That old myth? The one about some shadow thing in the woods. Jenna nodded. Not just a shadow thing. The Hollow Man is a spirit that lingers here. They say he was a hunter who got lost in the woods decades ago. When they found him, his body was empty, no organs, no blood, just a hollow shell. Some say his spirit still roams these woods, looking for a new body. If you hear your own voice calling to you from the trees, you must never follow it. That's how he lures his victims. A heavy silence fell over the group. The wind howled through the branches above, and for a brief moment, it almost sounded like a voice whispering among the trees. Bullshit, Kevin said, tossing a stick into the fire. Just a dumb story to scare kids. A twig snapped somewhere behind them. Everyone turned at once. That was probably just an animal, Lisa said, though her voice wavered. Or the Hollow Man, Mark teased. They laughed, but unease lingered. One by one, the campers retired to their tents, the fire burning low. The forest felt alive, watching. A scream shattered the silence. Mark bolted upright in his tent, his heart pounding. He scrambled for his flashlight and unzipped the flap. Lisa? His voice was hoarse. Was that you? No response. The other campers stirred, their groggy voices mixing with the sounds of the restless woods. What was that? Jenna whispered, stepping out of her tent, hugging her arms against cold. Another sound, low, guttural breathing, echoed from the trees. It was close. Guys? Lisa's voice called, but something was wrong. It came from deeper in the forest, not from her tent. Mark felt ice crawl up his spine. Lisa? Where are you? A pause. Then her voice again, almost playful. Come find me. Kevin shone his flashlight toward the trees. No way, man. This isn't funny. Jenna grabbed Mark's arm. She wouldn't just wander off like that. Lisa's voice came again, but this time, it overlapped itself. Two versions of her voice spoke at once, one slightly delayed. Come find me. The campers froze. The forest held its breath. Then they saw it. A figure stood just beyond the tree line. Tall, unnaturally still. The beam of Kevin's flashlight barely illuminated its face, but what they saw made their stomachs drop. It was Lisa, or something wearing her skin. Her mouth stretched too wide, her smile unnatural. Her eyes were hollow, dark voids that swallowed the light. The thing tilted its head. Then it spoke again, but this time it mimicked Kevin's voice. What was that? The exact words he had spoken minutes earlier. Jenna yanked Mark's arm. Run. They didn't hesitate. Bursting into a sprint, they tore through the camp, knocking over chairs, tripping over logs. Behind them, the thing moved, not running, but gliding, its head twitching, its limbs contorting in ways no human should. Mark reached the van first, fumbling with the keys. His hand shook violently as he jammed the key into the lock. Get in. Get in. Kevin and Jenna piled in as Mark yanked the door shut. He twisted the key, and the engine roared to life. The headlights cut through the night. Lisa, or the thing that wore her form, stood at the edge of the trees. It grinned, too wide. Then, As if melting into the darkness, it slowly faded away. For a long moment, no one spoke. The only sound was their ragged breathing. Then Jenna whispered, "Where's the others?" They turned, staring back at the camp. The fire had died completely, and the remaining tent stood eerily still. Mark tightened his grip on the wheel. "We can't go back." Kevin swallowed hard, then drive. Mark floored the gas pedal, and the van sped down the dirt path away from Black Hollow Camp. The forest loomed behind them, swallowing the campsite whole. They never spoke of that night again, and they never found Lisa's body. Even now, if you listen closely at Black Hollow Camp, you might hear voices drifting from the trees, familiar voices, calling you by name.